Everyone relax. Everyone relax. This is TOFOP. I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Will Anderson. Hello and thank you for watching.
Do you remember when we started recording in the studio that I was like, I'm going to bring in a change of clothes so like it doesn't look like the same.
I put on my jacket.
I haven't changed anything.
I mean, my jacket is just like I was wearing a black hoodie and I put on like a jacket that has a black hood on it.
For the purposes of looking different or just because you're cold?
I was a bit cold.
Okay, yeah. I've given up, obviously, on changing my
It's okay.
look.
Everybody knows we're recording them in the...
It also helps me when I'm editing the videos for Patreon, though, to differentiate between episodes. Because sometimes, like, I'm like, fuck, hang on, which episode was that? And then the thing about this show is because we have no structure, is like I'll have to listen to it. And I'm like, hang on, what episode is that? Like, it's not like, what are you doing? I mean, this is good reason to watch the video. Will just started rubbing his eyes while I was talking.
Yeah.
Why?
Because my eyes needed to be rubbed.
So it wasn't a sense of frustration with what I was saying because
No.
you were it was like, sort of went to your temples. And I'm like,
I mean, I did stretch out the corner of my eyes a little, like
a playground
I was
racist
going to say
trope.
that. Yeah, that certainly wasn't what I was doing. I wasn't like doing the eyes.
Odd to do that to me. Anyway.
No, I had like a little. You know, sometimes when you yawn a little and you get a little bit of moisture, like I know I was just like I needed to just like remove the little bit of what you were saying. Charlie was making me cry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, about the fact that our podcast has no structure. that you've given up.
Well, I don't give up. It's just that when you're looking from a video editing point of view, when you've got all these, like you've got the files open, it's like, okay, so that's that episode, and then because I basically have a template, right? So I've got the opening of the show and the end of the show, and then I just whack in the new episode. So it's virtually automated when I drop it in. But there are times when I get distracted mid-edit and I have to come out and then I have to come back and go, hang on, was this the first episode we recorded or the second episode we recorded? And so having different clothes on helped me differentiate.
Helps.
But now I'm like,
But what if I take this jacket off mid-episode? That'll really...
Oh, right. Is that like David Caruso? And you used to hear that's why he took his glasses off mid-scene? That's why he did it, so they couldn't cut him out of scenes because of the continuity. So that is the reason why he was so sunglasses obsessed, because they can't cut to another shot or use a different take of him. If you want them to use this take, they're going to have to use it because he's done the sunglasses.
Oh, my God. I did not know that was the case.
Yeah. I mean, at least that is the legend around it, which makes sense. I've worked with actors who definitely know those little tricks. They know how to steal a scene or make sure that they get the close-up.
Well, I did. There was a guy from the Montreal Comedy Festival who once got really mad at me because I was doing that routine I used to do about having one bicep that's bigger than the other one. And so in that, I would take off my jacket and I would show people the bicep. And so during this set, I both took off my jacket and then put it back on again at some point. And he said, yeah, it was impossible to do that because of that. And I was like, oh, well, that actually worked in my favor in that instance. So maybe if there's ever a bit where I'm like, oh, yeah, we nailed that riff, I'll take my jacket off and then put it back on if I feel like it's not going well.
Oh, this reminded me, I listened to the philosophy you did with Tony Martin a few weeks back. By the way, outstanding episode. Like, you've done some great philosophies, but that one was extra special. There's something about it. But all that stuff you talked about, it's so interesting to hear someone like Tony Martin, who has inspired so many comedians and is revered in comedy circles, whether or not you're a stand-up comedian or you make sketches or whatever it is, because or radio, he's done so much. To hear him be so insecure about his own stand-up and to be driving home from gigs and wondering what he did right or wrong, it was just, I never in my mind considered that Tony Martin would ever question what he does, that he's a genius. But just talking about taking off the jacket, because you had that discussion about specials and how they'll often take, someone will do an entire run of shows and then they'll just take the best bits from each bit and stick it together by wearing the same outfit.
Yeah. So can I just say on that Tony thing, if people haven't heard it, it's on this feed. Go back and have a listen. If you don't know who Tony Martin is, maybe you're an international listener who is like, oh, I don't recognize that name. So you went by that episode. From New Zealand originally, but came over to Australia for his comedy career. And was one of the most famous names on Australian radio for sure, but also television comedy, behind the scenes, in front of the camera, writing, incredible writer. But one of, I would imagine, the top 5 most respected comedians to ever, and I'm only saying 5 because that feels like a reasonable sort of thing to put out there, but I reckon he would make most people's top 5 lists of most respected comedians who've ever worked in Australia in comedy. Like, just one of those people that other comedians are like, yeah, Tony Martin. And then for him to come in and be so... The funny thing is that there were some off-limit areas, which obviously I won't go into, but... So we talked a bit about those off air and had lovely discussions around those things, like just personally, like, you know, we had those discussions even though that they weren't on the. So the actual, I think we probably spent nearly 3 hours together because the episode's like 2 plus hours.
Yeah. It's been great while I've been doing my renos. I was playing it on the speaker while I was cutting blinds.
But he.
It's the only thing I enjoyed about fucking.
And then we
doing
didn't
those
get to
blinds.
like, you know, I could have asked him about a million other things, but he was so generous in his vulnerability and intimacy, and like, you don't hear a lot of interviews with him where he is not in like Tony Martin I'm funny mode. But even just to hear him talk about his craft and how he goes about what it is, I loved it. I had such a good time doing it.
It's such a good episode.
I'm glad people have enjoyed it.
And it's also that thing too of, you know, when I think of Tony Martin's comedy, I think of like the nicheness of it. Like, he has such a specific point of view, but the skill of his niche point of view is he makes you understand what he's joking about, even if you've never seen On the Buses. Like, even if you don't know who William Friedkin is, he has an ability to communicate the thing that he finds funny about it, or the joke he's making about it, with you having no reference to that thing.
Yeah, firstly, he understands the language of comedy, so he can say it in a way where you understand it from context regardless. But secondly, a lot of the time you're enjoying his joy in it. You like hearing him make that reference as much as you enjoy the reference itself, right?
Yeah.
It's not that you want to hear more material about On the Buses. It's that you want to hear Tony Martin talk about On the Buses.
That's right.
Right?
And he also said something too about, and it was like, oh, fuck, yeah, of course, where he said, you know, he likes doing impressions of people who aren't often, people don't often do impressions of. And he talked about on The Late Show when he did De Niro. And I was like, oh, that's right. Because I feel like everyone does a De Niro. You're talking to me now, you're talking to me. But the first time I ever saw anyone do that was Tony Martin doing De Niro. It's just so crazy. It's like, it's kind of like when I came up with Richmondy. Yeah. It's like now we use Richmondy. It's like, oh yeah, it had to have an origin somewhere. And
well,
like,
every one of those old jokes, you know, went like, at some stage, someone for the very first time told one of those old jokes. Somebody came up with them, and we don't know who those people are.
Yeah.
You know, occasionally when you hear a good street joke, you're like, who?
Where'd that start?
Where did that come from?
Yeah.
Like, who was the person who wrote that joke that is so good that it has been passed from person to person, situation from situation?
Are you aware? I mean, I know you are on social media, but you're not really on social media. But are you sort of familiar with the Mark Wahlberg phenomenon of Mark Wahlberg's Instagram account?
No.
So Mark Wahlberg is
Marky Mark
Wahlberg
of the Funky Bunch.
Of the Funky Bunch.
Or was he a member of the Funky Bunch, or was it Marky Mark
and
the
Marky
Funky
Mark
Bunch?
and Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
I would like to know whether Marky Mark considered himself to be like
part of
a
it. Was it
member
Cool
of the,
and the Gang?
Yeah, it was Cool and the Gang. So I reckon Cool wasn't part of the gang. Whereas, like, was it Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, or was he a
what
member?
else would it be? Marky Mark
and the Funky Bunch.
Mark.
But you know, like,
And
that
the
might have
Funky
been.
Bunch, as in, it's like, so what are the KC in the Sunshine Band?
Yeah.
Are they separate from?
But yeah, was KC in the Sunshine Band, and they were like, oh, we've just got to like front and center KC, or did the
Who were the Funky Bunch? I guess is more the question.
Who were the Funky
Like,
Bunch?
was it a permanent roster, or was it? Should we look this up?
Yeah, let's
This
definitely. This feels like information we need.
Yeah,
Because I would like to know what happened to the Funky Bunch.
Okay, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch was an American. Just even saying it. It sounds like it could be a Sesame Street kind of characters,
totally.
right? Marky
Yeah.
Mark and the
What was your
a bunch
favourite
of-
kids show
who
when
was
you were
your
growing up?
Broccoli,
Yeah.
like dancing broccoli. And
Yeah. Mark, you know who taught me to eat broccoli? Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
You're right. Especially sort of coming out of like
Yeah.
the image he was projecting of tough Boston, like House of Pain kind of
Yeah.
like white hip hop. But Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. I just immediately dancing broccoli comes to mind.
You know, remember to brush your teeth the way Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch
said.
taught you.
Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch
Yeah.
was an American hip hop group formed in 1991 by Mark Wahlberg,
Yeah.
aka Marky Mark, Scott G, Hector the Body Inspector, DJ T.
Hector the Body Inspector's in prison.
Oh, sorry,
for
no.
meat-
Hey,
Oh,
I misread
okay,
that.
Sorry.
This is not political. Hector the Booty Inspector.
Oh, Hector the Booty Inspector.
but maybe it's
He's
more
up on
like,
charges now.
Well, no, it might also
Got
be
cancelled.
prostates. It's like more
Oh.
like for middle-aged men.
Hector was like,
The Booty Inspector. Middle-aged men, bend over. It's time to check your prostate.
okay, so you think Hector might have been a doctor, but he had to work under like a pseudonym to be in the Funky Bunch.
DJ T, but it's not DJ T, it's DJ-T, so you could read it as DJ T.
Oh, yeah.
And Ashy Ace, the group's best-known song,
Good Vibrations.
which made it to number one on the Billboard Hottest 191, while their follow-up song, Wild Side, peaked at number 10. Okay. Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch released their debut album, Music for the People, in July 23rd, 1991. The album was a huge success, making it to number one. Isn't it funny, right? Like, because this is also the era of Vanilla Ice. And so it was like, for white people, it's like, we like this rap thing, but we're scared when black people do
Yeah.
it. Just give us it doesn't matter how good they are.
We
Just
don't like
give me a white person.
We don't like gangs.
Yeah.
But we
like funky
a
bunches.
funky bunch we're fine with.
Is there
we
a-
don't want a posse, but maybe like a bunch of funky people.
No
We could-
crews.
No.
No. Especially
no.
not if they're live and there's two of them.
No, thank we
We don't want anyone with attitude.
No, that's right.
No clans.
No, thank you. Right? Because they were all those, like those terms. So like a bunch, a funky
Yeah, you're
bunch
right.
does
That
feel
sounds
it's
like it's
such
a
a
focus
white
group.
person's like take on a gang. Like you got to have a gang. You've got to have a collective, but.
And also like the misuse of funk, because
Yeah.
it's not really funk, it's hip hop. It's like a different genre of music, but it's like, that sounds like a focus group record exec going, hey,
You know
we
what?
want
Hip
suburban
hop
white
scares
kids.
people, but
Funky
funky
bunch.
is testing through the roof.
And we've got, bring in the mascots, and then Broccoli comes in and starts dancing. Remember to brush your teeth, kids. Okay.
Look, here's the good news. We've already registered the trademark Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch because we had a kids' TV show idea that we didn't get off the
That's on
ground.
Jim Henson.
So we've already got
Jim
the
Henson
t-shirts.
sold us the IP.
And we can replace the broccoli head with Marky Mark's head. We think we can do this.
I should point out too that Scott G, Hector the Booty Inspector, DJ T and Ashy Ace, none of them have hyperlinks. So I'm
Okay.
assuming
This was it for the Funky Bunch.
they peaked in
They
91.
never went on to other things.
The album's success was fueled by two top 10 singles, both of which were certified gold. Good Vibrations, which is number one, and Wild Side, which number 10. Can you remember Wild Side?
I don't know. Is it a take on Walk on the Wild Side? Was it?
I don't know. Okay. Let's see if I can find a sample of it. Right. Yeah, we can play a little bit of it, can't
Just
we?
a little tiny bit.
I mean, can we do this?
I mean, look,
Mike,
if we need to,
can
cut
we
it
play a
out, we
little
can
bit of
cut
it?
out.
Wild Side, Mark and the Funky Bunch. Yeah, you're right. I mean, great
Oh, yeah.
sample.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like a
And they've got a real House of Pain, like, that's a real House of Pain kind of
oh
imagery.
yeah, it's black and white. Yeah,
low caps.
something's burning.
Yeah.
Someone's left something on the stove. Something's burning.
So the Funky Bunch are all black,
Oh,
which is interesting.
that's a focus group.
Yeah.
What about this
We need
gang of black guys he's hanging out with? Oh no, they're not a gang.
Yeah.
They're a funky bunch.
They're a Funky Bunch. At the height of the group's success, they also had a video game released by Digital Pictures entitled Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch Make My Video.
All right.
But the game was not a success,
No.
and it's been considered one of the worst video games ever made.
Sounds like it. I could have just assumed that from the name.
Oh, okay, sorry. I just got to click on to find out a bit more about this video game. The 10 worst games of all time.
Oh, great.
Oh, no, that page can't be found. I
Okay.
reckon Mark Wahlberg said it's scrubbed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's the worst video game of all time. After the success of Music for the People, the group quickly recorded a follow-up entitled You Gotta Believe. That was released on September 1992. However, the album achieved little success, only making it as high as number 67, as did the album's lone charting single, also titled You Gotta Believe.
I guess people didn't gotta believe.
They didn't gotta believe.
They were like, wait, no, we don't gotta believe.
Why didn't you gotta believe?
We don't gotta. You can't tell us we gotta. We don't gotta.
The group disbanded in 1993 with their appearance, last being I Want You, which was featured on the Super Mario Brothers movie soundtrack. After the group disbanded, Mark continued his music career by teaming up with reggae musician Prince Itel Joe. The duo released 2 albums in Europe and had a #1 hit in Germany with United. Mark continued to release...
This feels like the Wikipedia entry for someone who we haven't heard of since.
Yeah.
You know, and Mark continued to release albums in blah,
Germany.
blah, blah for the rest of his life.
Yeah, so it's continued to release music until retiring in 1998 and becoming a successful actor in the United States. So that's all the information on the Funky Bunch.
Okay.
So meteoric rise and then crashing to the ground. So his Instagram now is mainly he's like Ryan Reynolds or The Rock. He's plugging his own brand of like shoes and drinks and all that kind of stuff. But the thing that really defines it, it has a very strong Catholic undertone to the point that he has a tagline. Do you know what the tagline is?
No.
Stay prayed up.
Stay prayed up.
So Mark Wahlberg's philosophy is that he has a chapel or a church, I think, on his property.
Hang on, I just need a second. I just need a second to deal with what's just happened. Stay prayed up.
Stay prayed up.
Oh.
So the idea...
Oh, Charlie, I've had like a physical reaction to that. Stay prayed up.
Yeah. So he's I don't know if you call him...
Hey, man, stay prayed up. Stay prayed up.
I don't know if...
You know who else had a funky bunch?
Jesus.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Stay prayed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know us gave people good vibrations?
Jesus.
Again, it's Jesus. The answer to all those questions are Jesus. You know who you got to believe in? Jesus. Stay prayed up.
Because I think he has a tattoo of rosary beads around his chest. So would you call that fundamentalist?
I would call that no, because in the Bible it says you can't get tattoos or you won't get into heaven.
I think that's if you're Jewish.
Okay.
I think Catholics can.
Oh, you can get tattoos if
can
you're
get
Catholics.
tattoos.
Is that right?
Yeah. We carved that out in the
Okay.
little when we did our deal with God.
We'll have sex offences and Catholic tattoos,
Yeah.
please, because we're going to go to prison. So we're going to need to get tattoos.
So the idea being that, so every video seems to be him. He goes to bed early,
Yeah, because he gets up. The one thing I do know is
He's up
I
at
saw
4
one of
a.m.
his schedules once, and he
Yeah.
gets up in very early in the morning,
Yeah.
and then has this full day.
So but he gets up to work out, and so the videos are normally they're kind of they're all the same. Like he's not the only person doing this, but it's him working out, doing like ice baths and all that kind
Yeah.
of shit. But he's normally working out with a friend, and he always fist bumps at the end. It's like stay prayed up,
Stay
points to the
prayed
camera,
up.
stay prayed up. But he also has like a personal chef or something who's always brings him like a breakfast of like egg whites and broccoli, probably broccoli from the funky leftover
that's
from the
right.
broccoli bunch.
We got a lifetime deal with big broccoli.
But this idea being that, hey man, like if you want to conquer the world,
Yeah,
you got to get
all
up,
you need is a private chef in your own chapel.
yeah,
stay
and
prayed up.
your own gym, and you
Yeah.
got to get it. And like he does look good, but clearly, I don't think it's just prayer and fucking workouts.
Stay prayed up, and when I say prayer, I
mean,
mean human
HGH.
growth hormone. The Holy
Stay
Trinity.
jabbed up.
Human growth hormone.
So he has this thing, and the reason I bring it up is because you're talking about like where did jokes start, and I saw someone on Twitter write like Mark Wahlberg goes to bed at the time of a toddler to get up at 4 a.m. to work out 5 times a day to make the most dog shit movies you've ever seen.
Right.
It's
He's dedicated
it's
his
so
life
true.
to
to just like
The
do all this
relentless
shit
pursuit of shit.
of bad movies and
Yeah.
like and shilling. Like at least with The Rock or Ryan Reynolds, who they shill like like anybody's business, but it's entertaining, right? Like they at least I feel like there's some
But they're also not clouding it with a connection to Christianity or like spirit, like to Jesus. Like, I don't know.
Why is that clouding it though?
Because,
Like, how does it really matter?
well, I mean, I think Jesus had like some attitudes around like,
Material
yeah,
wealth.
yeah, and the idea that you're leveraging that for a commercial arrangements doesn't seem in the spirit of Jesus.
That's a good point. I can't remember. Look, I mean, I don't. No pun intended. I don't religiously follow his Instagram, but I'm not sure if he's like, "Hey, these are my new brand of sneakers. Stay prayed up."
Yeah, but if that's part of his whole brand is like stay prayed up, and then it's like get up early and work out so that you can drink your tequila and like sell your whatever it is, and then you're like, oh, I'm stay prayed up. It's like,
Yeah.
I reckon staying prayed up is like sharing your wealth and like looking after people. And
I think
like,
for quote from the Bible, it would be easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven.
right. That bit. Concentrate a bit more on that bit of the like stop and
He takes the wrong lesson. He's like trying to squeeze through a needle. He's like, check this out. Stay prayed up. He's not
yeah.
trying to
Also,
force his
take
foot through a
full
needle.
responsibility for the terrible things you did when you were young.
Yeah.
How about that?
Hey, didn't you
Stay
blind
prayed
someone?
up. Yeah. Right. How about that?
Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I listened back to when Mum was in her last days of cancer, and I recorded a bunch of podcasts with her. I listened to the last one quite recently, just to kind of like check back in and see if there's any wisdom I could take out of it. And we did talk about the Catholicism thing because remember saying to her at the time, "Gee, your attitude to life and death doesn't feel very Catholic. It feels a bit more like Buddhist or something," because she was preaching this idea of non-attachment, like that I'm not owed anything from life. I'm not owed anything by my
That
relationships.
is not the Catholic way.
That is not the Catholic
Publicly,
way.
that is not the Catholic way.
No, that's very much about behave like this in order to earn this, where
Yeah.
she was like, oh no, like I think I've had all the life I'm meant to have. And as long as I feel like I have, settled my accounts here, then I feel quite ready to go on whatever that might be, whatever that form might be. And I said, oh, it's interesting, isn't it, though, that you raised 9 kids and none of us are practicing Catholics. Like, does that disappoint you at all? And she was like, no. And she said, I actually would be more concerned if you were all practicing Catholics, because when I, entered the church, or the knowledge I had or the information I had at hand was different to what you guys. You had far more access to information, and religious dogma was not what it was when I was a kid. And I was like, yeah, it does seem strange that in this era of access to information at your fingertips, that there would be people who'd be saying, hey, stay prayed up.
Right.
And I'm going to be a billionaire and disenfranchise all these people and, pay slave wage.
But there's always been an element of all religions that has been about branding, right? Because religions are in the same way. I mean, most of the religions have a whole bunch of similar central tenets, and then it is just the icing on the cake. It's like going to India and they, serve rice at McDonald's or something, right? Like or you can still get a Big Mac, but it's not beef.
That's
or
right.
whatever
Mutton.
it might be, right?
It's mutton.
Yeah. So it has.
And that is true. I've
different-
had a burger in India.
Yeah.
It is mutton burger.
Yeah,
so,
right.
yeah.
And it has a different, but it's still kind of recognizable as the same thing. And I think in this age of, they do say that they think the rise of conspiracy theories has to do with, the people are still looking for something, an explanation. Sometimes that's not even meaning. I think sometimes people just want to tell me what the explanation for this is. Give me an explanation, even if it's not a realistic explanation. Even if you're like, you know what I do? I just get up at 3:00 in the morning and I eat chicken breast and broccoli, and this is why I look like this.
Yeah.
People go, okay, that's an explanation. It's probably not steroids.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny too, like that feeling of wanting to defer to a higher power or hope that there's someone in charge. Like, I've been going through some stressful stuff lately, and I did have this very visceral kind of impulse of it took me by surprise, where I was like, where's mum? Like I just wanted, I wanted an adult to come in and,
Mum, can't you?
yeah, you know what I mean?
And the other
It's
thing
this
is,
is challenging.
You know how unreasonable that is? Because I'm the age now that my dad was when I finished university. So what I realized about that is when I was young and my parents were young. Like I know fuck all now.
Yeah.
And I've grown up in an age of information.
Yeah.
Like they were the people that I thought could come in and fix things. They were probably most of the time going, well, I don't know
fucking
either.
know.
How would
Yeah.
I know?
But that's it, right? Like, because none of us know. And this is the thing. Like, I'm always amazed because, you know, it sort of comes back to last week's discussion. We were talking about the blinds and why aren't I just good at stuff? Like, how come, you know, I get into these situations, I get really angry at myself when I just sort of feel like, honestly, like, I understand that some people have more experience in specific areas and so that gives them expertise. But there's so much kind of general knowledge or life experience in which we're all just fucking making it up. And like, especially...
But also in human history.
Yeah.
Like we're at an age of evolution technologically, educationally, our capacity to receive information that has never happened in the history of human beings. So if you graphed every human who's ever lived and compared them to, you know, just the access to information that we have now, let alone anything else, the access of technology, time, you know, all the time-saving devices and whatever we have, the capacity to travel, to see things on the other side of the world, to experience these pictures and sounds and whatever it might be. Like in the whole of human history, like everyone's an idiot compared to us. Like you,
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're all real idiots
Yeah.
because things have advanced so quickly that... And we will be idiots by the generation, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever years from now. Like they'll look back at the way we did things and go, that is ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, yeah, 100% right. And so this idea of, and it's obviously like, we've talked ad nauseum about like social media, but there is this sort of, we now have this, it's like there is this instant judging panel, you know, and there's a lot of shaming of people and there's a lot of like shaming around, like you could, that cliche of, oh, you could post something about like, I love broccoli and people are like, why do you hate carrots? You know,
Do you support Marky Mark, do you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, you know, Marky Mark and Big Broccoli are in the pocket of each other. So,
and that's the thing, like I feel so confused about, you can find sources to back up any point of view. Like when it comes to something really simple like nutrition, you know,
that is, by the way, the most ridiculous sentence that has ever been uttered because there is nothing simple about conversations around nutrition.
well, it should
be
but
simple.
It feels like
there
it
should be a
simple.
scientific way where you just say
eggs are good,
Yeah.
you know, chocolate is bad.
Yeah, right.
But now apparently it's like no,
and
it's
it changes
the
every
part of the
5
egg that you
years.
eat,
Yeah.
you know, is
Oh,
good or
but have
bad.
you been eating eggs and chocolate together? Oh no, you are going to die tomorrow.
But it's also tied into the vanity of it all,
Yeah.
like this idea of
course.
people projecting an image, like the Marky Mark saying, "Stay prayed up, work out. This is how you be successful."
If Marky
you know?
Mark was Philip Seymour Hoffman,
Hmm.
and he's like saying, "Stay prayed up," it doesn't have. He's selling this bland.
Bland,
You know
nice.
what I mean?
Yeah,
right.
good.
But he is like
Yeah.
selling this sort of like I am this wholesome, like working out, like modern version of like a.
But it's look, and this is mainly because I can't speak to you know what female or non-binary Instagrams are doing, but specifically with like cis male representations, it's there is this kind of a pushing of like it's a mix of traditional male masculinity, which is like have muscles, you know, be a alpha, be an achiever. But there's also this other idea of, you know, but you've also got to be like read 5 books a week, you know, do this, do that. And it's like none of these things, like you can't just graft, like there is no perfect man. There is no perfect body. There is no perfect intellect. It's all on a spectrum of what people are, your capabilities and what you're interested in, what you have time to do.
But also, if everyone's an alpha, then suddenly not everyone's an alpha, right? If everyone was an alpha, if all men were how they say that men are meant to be in these situations, right? Then the weakest alpha becomes the non-alpha anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like it is only defined by a hierarchical status in whatever situation you are in, right? Like So even that idea that there is one type of what a man should be is just impractical for the needs of the world.
Yeah. But I've definitely been sucked into it. Like, of course, being an
But
actor
it's a new,
and being
like
on
we've managed to
TV
shape, we've managed to sell, because even that like idea of what a man was back in the day, and it was cliched and
of
wrong
course,
as well.
Marlboro Man.
But it wasn't like a guy who goes to the gym 4 hours a day and
Yeah.
sculpts his body and looks. It was like, I'm strong and I'm a man and I'm outdoors. But there was almost a pride to the not being body conscious.
So this is the thing I've been trying this year. And like, ironically, it came off a nutritionist I started following online. There's this Scottish guy, I think he's called the Nutrition Chef or something. But his whole thing is to subverting that six-pack and, work out 5 times a day and you got to eat this and go that. He's like, food's food. And he's like, here's the thing, right? Like, this is a coffee scroll. This is a piece of broccoli. The idea you say this is unhealthy food, this is healthy food is ridiculous. If all you ate is a cinnamon scroll, yeah, then that's unhealthy. But guess what? If all you ate was broccoli, that would also be unhealthy. Your diet is made up of lots of different things. And if you try and balance that out, there is nothing wrong with having a cinnamon scroll. If that's going to make you happy for the day, you've had a shitty morning, cinnamon scroll and a cup of coffee is going to pick you up, great, have a cinnamon scroll. Don't beat yourself up, offer it. But then maybe for dinner tonight, have something else. It's just all about a balance. And he said the idea that people market foods as being good foods or bad foods is ridiculous.
It's marketing.
It's marketing.
Yeah.
And the idea
it's someone who has something like an agenda to push.
And, obviously diets and all this kind of stuff. And so this year I was like, because I was very strict around what I used to eat. And so now I'm just very much like, well, you know what? I'm not going to go buy, because I would go shopping for a week's worth of food and have the meals planned out, for me and Gemma and Iona. And now I'm much more like, well, I'm just going to, on the day, I'll go to the shops and get stuff because shops are very close by. It's easy for me to do. And I'll just think on my feet and whatever we can get. And I'll try and cook healthy, but then there's some days we'll just get a pizza or whatever it is. And then same with the gym. It's like I was trying to get to the gym every day, or at least as much as I could. But now, especially with these renos going on, if I've got spare time, I need to work on the house. You know what I've noticed?
Which is also a workout of types.
But you know what I've noticed? Nothing.
No.
Nothing has changed. In my body shape, in the way I'm sleeping, in my relationships in life. All that's changed is I've put less pressure on myself and I'm happier.
Yeah.
That is the difference.
Because also doing stuff, like the gym, for example, is only meant to be in the place of I have a lifestyle where I'm not doing
physically
stuff,
active,
right?
yeah.
So if you're being physically active in your day, that's your workout. Like, and physically active doesn't always have to be I'm carrying something very heavy. It can sometimes be that concentration that is needed to achieve a task is in itself physically exhausting.
Yeah. And then look, I'm not saying that. I also understand that sometimes you want to set yourself a little personal challenge. Oh, I want to run a marathon at the end of the month, or I want to do this or do that.
Oh, and by the way,
time,
having your own goals, I think, is different to this idea that there is a hack or a solution or all these people. Because every time someone has the perfect way to do it, they're trying to sell you something. They're trying to sell you on an idea or something. And most of the time, the problem is that they have short-term, immediate effects. Right? Like a lot of these things work really well because you're like, hey, just fast 16 hours a day, like every day, and you'll lose like a bunch of weight. And you can, right? For a while.
Yeah.
But then you have to have some sort of maintenance program, or otherwise people just yo-yo back and forward on these things.
Yeah, it's got to be sustainable. But it's also got to be paired up with and this is going to sound so fucking new agey, but a sense of like self-care, right? Like if any of these things you're putting into practice are because you dislike something about yourself.
Yeah.
The way you look in the mirror or the way you interact with your friends or whatever it is, your career status or wherever it is, then it's counterproductive because you're setting yourself up for failure because it's like, all right, if I follow these steps to being fucking like, the lord of my domain or whatever it is, but then I miss a week or something else happens and distracts me. Oh shit, I've got to go back to square one. Like I was talking to a friend who's about to embark on something like this, and I'm supportive of it because he just needs to take his mind off everything else and he wants to just focus on something that's just going to give him a goal.
I also think that being nutritious, if that's like,
nutritious, is that like as in someone eats you, you're nutritious?
Well, I mean, as in like that being your main focus of how you're thinking about food.
Yeah.
Which is,
I want to get more nutrients into my body.
that's right. I'm thinking of food as being this thing that is going to like help me do the other things in my life that I need to be able to do. It's always a pretty good starting point to go, we all instinctively know if we look at a bowl of vegetables versus a bowl of like cheese pasta, that one of them is probably more nutritious than the other.
That's right.
Right? But sometimes you're like, I want the cheese pasta. But you know what I could do? I could tip that bowl of vegetables into the cheese pasta and have like a cheesy vegetable pasta. And I know there's more nutrients in that than
having without.
Yeah, right? And I always think that that's what because sometimes I go through very non-nutrient, because I crave like sugar, fat, salt, like everybody, but like particularly in high stress times, like often I do use food as like something in that. And then when I'm trying to shift my focus, I'm like, just introduce, like, so I've been doing a thing recently where just for a month, I'm like, have a salad a day. Just make sure that every single day, because it's a really easy thing, but it's just like, it's an easy thing to achieve. Like rather than say, I'm going to have a month where I'm going to like, not have cake or like not do this or whatever. Don't frame it like that. Just go, I'm going to have every day have a salad, right? Good. And that in itself, you've put one of your meals that you know is nutritious, and it kind of does have a flow-on effect to the rest of your day, you know? And I find framing it through that, like just something easily achievable but positive. And also, like the other thing is these days, eating a salad is not the punishment that it once was, that used to be real. Like, whereas like now on the street where I'm staying, there is literally 3 really great salad places.
Yeah.
Where you can just go and get like a really, like one of those meals where you eat it and then afterwards you're like,
why don't I eat this more often?
I feel like the food is doing the right job in my body. It's making me feel more prepared for the world.
Well, it's even like an anticipation for our big bulk record today, because I knew we were going to be cracking that pack. I was like, well, last time we did this, I didn't eat any breakfast. And I was like, the first thing I ate can't be a fucking chocolate biscuit. And so I had like a nice breakfast, but, something kind of fairly healthy, because I'm like, well, today's a day I'm going to eat biscuits. That's fine. But I just want to have a little layer of nutrition before I put all that sugar in. But I think it just, for me, I keep coming back to this idea of, I mean, it's not like a midlife crisis or whatever, but it's like I have less time now I'm less interested now in kind of serving imaginary masters than I do about like being honest with myself, which is I trust myself that I will make good choices more often than not. But that's not to say I won't occasionally like indulge something. Like you say, you need a sugar hit or you're having a shitty morning and this will make you feel better. I think that's okay as well.
Of course it's okay. I mean, what you're saying about serving imaginary masters is the thing though, because it occurs to me so often that we spend so much of our lives living by other people's expectations or parameters by which our lives should be measured. And this is really the toughest thing of all about life, is that so often when I think about what would make me happy, I've been incredibly busy this year and it's been a delight. Like so many fun projects, but it has been relentless. Like it's just been one thing after another, often all at the same time. And each of them individually fantastic, but there has been times just because so many of them have been happening at the same time that it's been, quite overwhelming. And I was thinking about like, what is it that I like to do? Like what is it that I just, if I'm not like being motivated by,
work
other
commitments
people's sense of what like an achievement looks like to me, what does it,
it's a good
what
question.
what do I actually like to do? And the weird thing is that my likes are probably not being, like I've spoken about this before on the podcast, but it's started happening again, which is I am going through a period of buying so many books that I'm not, like disproportionately to what my capacity to read those books is. And last time I was doing that, my therapist said, you're buying books for the life you want to have, not for the life that you have.
Interesting.
And it's funny, I bought myself an old school record player, like a proper old one. Like, I bought a couple of records again, and it's like, oh yeah, like all these signs in my head are like, actually what I'd love to do. Like, I mean, I love doing these bulk records, but I haven't had a Sunday, like, because I've been touring and whatever. If I hadn't had this today, the idea that I could just like make myself a cup of coffee, put on the new Nick Cave record that I bought yesterday, like read the Sunday papers, like, go for a walk, like that would be, I'd be like, this is a happy day. I'm like very at peace. Go and see a movie or something, like do something. Just that's actually enough to make me very happy and satisfied. And I think that the imaginary, masters thing, we all do that, right?
Of course.
Like you're like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to look like this. For who?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I get the idea of, like, I'm thinking more about my health, but the reason I'm thinking more about health is I'm 50 now. So I realize that, like, the work I put into my health now will hopefully pay off later on in my life with the capacity to still do things. But other than that, who am I impressing, right? Who am I serving?
And I think I 100% agree. I had a similar kind of thought, which was like, what are my hobbies? Like if I had downtime, similar thing that wasn't work related. And because we both work in kind of fields where it's not 9 to 5, like, I can work 7 days a week, most weeks, because there's always something to do. Like, even if it's not something that there's an immediate deadline, well, if I get started on this now, that's going to save me time later on. But I never do, because then there's another thing, right? And I was like, so I started surfing, not very good at it, but again, the imaginary masters were like, well, what are you fucking doing this? You can't even get up. It's like, honestly, I don't care if I never even learn to if I don't even catch a wave. For me, at the moment, it's just about having 2 hours that I can go to the beach. I mean, I live in a part of the world where there's great surf. It seems insane to not take advantage of that. Like, why else would you live somewhere like that? But just to get in the water, and the great thing about being in the water is you can't take your phone, can't really think about anything else. It's a very immediate process. And because I'm not good at it, I am 100% mindful, because I'm getting smashed by waves and I could potentially get drowned. Yeah, exactly. But I even was talking to a friend, a builder, and I was saying to him, like, is it hard to like make furniture? Like, I just thought, because I've really enjoyed the process of renovating the house. I've quite enjoyed getting on the tools and just doing little things like building the shed and doing the yard and all this kind of stuff. And I'm not suggesting I'll be any good at it. And that's my new sort of mindset, is like, what's stuff that I'm not focused on the outcome, but just more focused on the process, because I have really enjoyed just getting into something and just working on it for no other reason than it gives me a focus in that point. And it feels like it's for me, as opposed to...
Well, even that idea that you can get good at something is such a fool's errand, because, like, I was, again, like, I mean, it sounds like I'm a million years old, but I guess, you turn 50, you think about some of these things, is that my career has, like, a lot of it's already happened, like, and a lot of it's gone well. I never learned how to do any of it. Like, I've never feel like I've perfected anything. Like, I realize now that, the amount of, like, times I beat myself up for not achieving a standard that I now realize was ridiculous that I even aspired to that standard. Like, the idea that I've never done something perfectly.
Yeah.
In my entire career, I've never done, like, you just get older and you learn to live with the imperfection. And then once you do, it's like, you're like, oh, this is better. This is a better way to live than constantly holding myself to an impossible standard.
Yeah.
Like, it's even that thing of going, when you're doing these things at home, if you're not an expert, of being able to go, yeah, you know what? Like, there is a bit of a red marker down the side of this thing, or it's not on the entire, but that's the best that I could do.
Yeah.
I did my best. I gave it a crack, and this is what we got.
I mean, there wasn't an imaginary master in that situation. There was a very real master. Yeah. But even Jem, I don't want to demonize her or make it sound like it's just like it is what it is. But it did make me kind of realize, like, even with my the writing and my creative process, I always feel like it's very sort of like conscious mind, front of the brain, of like, I need to deliver this by this, and so on. I understand that there is a time to kind of be inspired and be fully creative and non-judgmental in your own work and just let it flow. And then there's another part of your brain which is like, okay, well, I need to form this into something now that that's going to meet the requirements of the job. But I just did this amazing, workshop, 3-day workshop with some other creatives, and it was all about tapping into the unconscious, and my temptation is always to try and intellectualize the creative process. Also, what are the mechanics of this? And the woman leading the workshop kept sort of taking me away from that and saying that will come, but that's not the purposes of what we're doing now. What we're trying to do in this moment is access things that move you on a deeper level.
Yeah. What do you care about?
What do you care about? What imagery comes to you consistently? And so I've been not keeping a dream journal, but I've been writing down my dreams and then just not trying to, not interpret them. Like, I'm not trying to find meaning. I'm just writing them down. And then if something is very strong or consistent, I'm just sort of writing it and
start to go, oh, here's the theme. But you also start to notice patterns and themes.
That's right.
You're like, oh, I'm quite... So often when I'm collecting bits and pieces for shows, like it's not like I'll read every article every day and then go, oh, this will be something. Quite often what I'll do is go, oh, that's like, I think that's interesting to me, and I'll bookmark it.
Yeah.
And then I'll just like continue to collect stuff over whatever period of time. And then when like every couple of months or so, when I actually have a chance, I will spend a couple of days going through. And my immediate edit is I literally go through and read the headlines. And if it's something that I either felt like I learned all about through, it being a thing in the world, or now I have no interest in, they all immediately just get edited out. Right. So you suddenly just cull through the list. You're like, okay, I either learn about that or that's now no longer a thing I need to. And when I do that, immediately you start to see patterns. Wow, I've kept like 12 articles about like the rise of AI or whatever it might be is the thing.
Clearly,
and you start
to
go, oh, okay, here's the thing that I kept coming back to, or here's a artist I was interested in, or a movie that a thing that I wanted to find out more about.
It's funny because I was talking to one of the actors who was doing the workshop, and I was saying to them, I've never really viewed myself as an artist, because when I think of art, I think of like what Gemma does. She trained in fine art and she makes beautiful images and she has big ideas that she tries to communicate on a visual level. I've always thought of myself as more of like, I don't know, like a nuts and bolts blue collar. I work with words and we talk and, or I act. And that to me, that all seems very like, not ethereal or whatever. It's just kind of
but I mean that's
practical.
That's just in your own head though, because like working with words is no different to
working with pictures.
Yeah, like well, you can paint something. People paint houses. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not the painting itself that is the art. It is that what you create with the paints. Right?
Yeah, I mean, look, of course, it's all just a interpretation thing, but it's more the idea of. I think it's also the way I work because, like I said, I intellectualize things because it's also my way of interacting with the world, or my armor, I guess. Like scary concepts. If I can understand them, then maybe they're less scary. Or you use humor to kind of like give yourself some separation from something scary. You demystify, you take its power away by, oh, I understand what's going on here, or making fun of it or whatever. But I'm sort of at a point now where I'm like, well, just absorb it and then
but also the other thing is, I think with the rules is you're looking for an explanation of something, right? You're like saying, how does this work? How does this put together? But the problem with that is particularly when it comes to creativity, is that I think you read some book about like whatever the cat one is, don't
save the cat.
Don't save the cat.
No, save the cat.
Save the cat. Don't save the cat.
Don't save the cat. That was a bad. Yeah. That didn't sell very well at all. And then he did the second edition.
Kill the cat. You murder that cat. You find that cat.
In the first 5 minutes of your movie, throttle a cat.
Yeah. But the problem is that if there is a rule book, it becomes a thing that people go, oh, well, this is the way to do it.
Yeah.
As opposed to, like, often when I'm coming up with a bit, I could later write it down and go, oh, now here's what the structure of this bit is, right? Because I've eventually got it into like, and then I could academically, I could pull it apart and go, I do this, and this is here because of this, and then this is like the way this works is this. But that's not the conception of it. The conception of it's got to be led more by, let's do something that hasn't been done before, right? And I think that's that idea of tapping into your own unique creativity, is like trusting that the thing that you're interested in, it might be the most interesting thing because that is uniquely your perspective.
Well, it comes back to the Tony Martin of it all, right?
Yes. We're interested in it on the buses because Tony Martin is interested in it on the buses, not because...
Well, I think that's why we did fucking 10 episodes on 5.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I became uniquely obsessed with 5.
And I had no interest in 5, but I was interested in your obsession
Exactly.
with 5.
I don't think anyone was interested in 5. I mean, no offense to 5. Great guys. But I think it was... And I understand why that is interesting, because I love hearing someone talk about something that they're really, really into, because it makes you see things that you didn't see. It's like when you go, and I know that, sometimes you don't want to interpret art, but I love going to a museum or something and, putting headphones on and hearing about how the work was created, or where the artist was in that time of their life, or, what the interpretations have been from other people. And it's not necessarily that I'm looking for a definitive explanation of the art, but that all just feeds into my appreciation of what I'm viewing or what I'm experiencing.
Yeah, I went and saw a live theatre show a couple of weeks ago, and the first 2/3 of it, if you'd said to me, like if you'd stopped me and said exactly what has just happened, I could have given you a vague gist, but I wouldn't have been able to specifically say this is exactly what I imagined they were going for. But gee, I could have talked to you about it for 2 hours. Like, there was so much stuff in it that I could have gone, I reckon maybe this was about this, or like it might have been fun to have a conversation with somebody about, like, what it, all the things. Like, I mean, it was one of those shows where I think actually the last bit of it offered an explanation for what had happened that wasn't necessarily needed or satisfying to me. Maybe it was needed for other people, but just for me, I actually kind of enjoyed a bit more of the intrigue and mystery and presentation of the first 2/3 and the questions it raised, rather than maybe what the answer to the question was. But it really did, like, I was like, I don't know what the rules of this are. I don't know what the framework of this is, but it is still compelling and interesting and, provocative, and in a way that, like, was actually, I was like, oh yeah, sometimes you don't actually need to even understand what is going on to kind of understand what is going on.
Leaving an audience with a question rather than explanation, I think that's the kind of stuff
everyone
that sits with
feels
me.
like they these days needs things to be wrapped up.
Yeah.
But sometimes that mystery that will never even be answered can be good as well.
Yeah. What's not a mystery, Will, is our favourite segment, Crack That Pack. Let's hit that sting.
Oh, yeah.
Crack that pack.
Crack that
I
pack.
should credit. This is from our listener Lars. Sorry, it's on autoplay. I can't stop it.
Crack that pack.
Thank you, Lars.
Thank you, Lars.
For our sting. So we are on the second week of our Aldi investigation. Now, this was not the Supremo that was recommended by our listener last week. This is a personal recommendation from my friend Diana, whose husband apparently loves these bars. It's called, well, you decode that.
Okay. So so firstly, it says European in sort of
classy.
like in the
Classy.
but also in a classy kind of computer cursive,
Right.
and on a jaunty angle, as if it's going up an incline. European, and with some sort of unnecessary, like, just line at the end of European,
as if some Italian chocolatier has been written this with a feather quill.
And then in big blue letters, milk.
Yeah.
And then underneath, I mean, this is a whole novel of descriptions about what's going on here. Underneath it says Choco Biscuit Bars.
So the European is immediately undermined by the Choco.
Right?
The Mark Williams.
European Choco Biscuit Bars.
It's like, welcome to Australia.
Crispy butter biscuit with a milk creme filling covered in milk chocolate.
The presentation does feel premium, so it's not like a plastic pack. It's a cardboard thin pack. It looks-
big cardboard box, and there's 9 individually wrapped bars in there.
Yeah. So I cracked the last pack, so I'll let you. Crack,
Okay,
I'll let
I'll
you crack this pack.
Now, let me see. Oh, there's a little tab.
Again,
Crack
this
the
is
pack.
from part of the Belmont range.
Yeah.
From Aldi's. And I assume they'll be individually wrapped.
They are individually.
Yes, individually wrapped.
There
So
you go.
this
Little
is the
passes.
presentation so far is excellent. So if you were to go, I imagine if you were having like a meeting at like a big firm or something like that, the receptionist would probably say, "Hey, would you like a coffee or a tea?" And then this would come out, an individually wrapped European milk choco.
I mean, it
Biscuit
feels
bar.
like more pitched at that, like, you know what, treat yourself.
Yeah.
Go out and have your little individually wrapped.
Yeah.
It implies that you're not going to eat a whole packet of them.
Doesn't feel very sustainable having lots of packaging.
Unwrap. It's got a bit of a magic of the
the
Wonka,
Willy Wonka.
the Wonka style
It does.
unwrapping, though. I will say that. I'm going to lean back and have a little taste.
Okay,
of
Will's going to lean back. I've got to say the presentation so far, excellent. So each Choco biscuit bar, and they are like substantial. Like each one is larger than your average biscuit, bigger than a Tim Tam, not as thick as a Tim Tam, but elongated with the Wonka-esque logo tattooed, not that pressed into the chocolate. I don't know if it's like a logo referring to the name of the bar, or if it's just a symbol. It's elegant, it's classy, it's kind of intertwined. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to
It's
describe
European.
it. It's European, mate. Okay, so Will's eating his. I'm going to sit back now and take my bite.
Charlie's going to have a go at his. Now, the health ratings on the front, it's got 0.5 of a star of the health rating. So only a small amount of nutrition. Be treat-wise. Enjoy a balanced diet. So there's a couple of warnings here to obviously don't eat the whole packet of them. They're individually wrapped bars. There is a little... there's some sort of protection of nature in there as well. Like obviously they're sustainable. Maybe they don't have like palm oil or something like that in them, which is good. This is what the description on the back says. It's the combination of golden baked biscuits, delicious milky filling, and milk chocolate that makes Choco biscuit milk bars such a crunchy chocolate experience. So, you can also enjoy these in cappuccino flavour. Just in case you're-
ooh la la. I mean, not ooh la la. It's like bellissimo, I guess you'd say to that.
So, what do you think?
Big thumbs up from me. That is delicious. The chocolate tastes premium.
Like, the chocolate does taste like it's definitely a big
European.
step up from the
From the wagon wheel.
The wagon wheel, yeah. Well,
Sorry,
the cartwheel.
Biscuit, delicious. It's
Biscuit
a real,
is, again, I was quite happy with the cartwheel biscuit, but
this is better.
now that I've tasted this, by comparison,
yeah, it's almost got a shortbready kind of.
and I love a little bit of shortbread.
Me too.
Yeah,
And then the milk is
the
so
milk
on
filling.
The milk filling is
Yeah.
much more prominent in the packaging. I can't quite see it. It's a thin layer, and I think it's
You
a
can
very.
see it though. Like, I mean, it is
But
there.
it's very thin. Again,
Yeah.
Belmont love to they play up the filling on the packaging, but I think that's good. It's a disciplined amount of milk filling, which I guess is like a condensed milk flavoring. But yes, this is fantastic. Like, and the great thing about this is, I reckon one individual biscuit
Is the right
amount.
So even the way that it's like, it's kind of like little chocolate box. I imagine you could almost break it into 5
You could split it over
individual servings,
Yep.
and they would all taste. It's a good.
You're eating on mic. I've got to point it out. Have a glass of water. Wash that down.
The balance is excellent.
Yeah. It's a big... okay, so on our tier system, S tier down to F. We haven't really had a fancy chocolate biscuit yet, have we? Like, this is probably the classiest...
Not a store-bought one.
Not a store-bought one.
Not one that you can go and actually purchase.
I'm going to give this an A. Not S tier, but definitely like... I would feel spoiled if someone laid one of these out next to a cup of tea, I'd be like, ooh, we're having a bit of European milk choco biscuit, are we?
I would say, look, here's the only downside I would say that stops it from being an A is I do think it's a 1. And like if I had 2 of them,
You'd feel
I'd
sick.
start to feel a bit sick.
Yeah.
And I don't think
You
that I
get a
can stop
tummy ache.
myself from. I don't think I can stop myself from having to because they are moreish. So
And the fact that it does come with a warning, like
Yes,
now that I
hey,
see it,
yeah,
all right, I'm going to downgrade.
I'm going to say B plus.
B plus.
Yeah.
I think that's accurate. If they hadn't put the warning, I would give it an A. But B treat wise, enjoy a balanced diet.
Yeah.
To me,
It's a
is
real
like
we've killed a few people with
yeah,
these
it's like
biscuits.
an American pharmacy commercial where it's like may cause blindness.
Yeah, so, please, daily recommendation is 1 tiny bite of one of these.
Yeah, okay, no, but
Good
that's thumbs up. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I reckon
Good recommendation.
trip to Aldi has been successful. While we're on the subject of Bickies, let's just get a couple of recommends before we wrap this up. Aldi has been a real big boon for people who like Crack That Pack. This is a different recommender. This comes from Kate. He says, "Guys, I'm pro biscuit chat. I'm good,
Good. Thank you.
and have recommendation that will be up your alley. Discovered a lovely little number earlier this month. Love it. It's so good. I love the passion. Like we just talked about like individual passions and the way it gets drawn out in people. I discovered a lovely little number earlier this month that I think you'll both enjoy. Cookers Country Cookies. A taste of the country.
Cookers country cookies.
Yeah. Not cookers, like as in Kookaburra.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were
Not
talking
as
about
in,
like
like,
as in QAnon,
QAnon.
believing.
No, although those biscuits would be amazing.
They're
Wouldn't it?
cookers.
Yeah.
They've got DMT in them.
Yeah, they're totally.
Yeah.
Open your mind, man. A taste of country Australia filled with ivermectin.
Ivermectin and ketamine.
Cookers Country Cookies. A taste of country Australia, allegedly. Available at Woolies.
Okay.
$5 a pack. It's a delightful combo of shortbread melting moment type biscuit sandwich with raspberry jam centre. A taste like the exact kind of biscuit you'd find at a small town bakery or a
Okay.
primary school fete, which
Yep.
I know you're a big fan
I
of.
do love those sort of biscuits.
We'll send a pic via Twitter.
Okay.
It's fine.
It's okay. I reckon I can work it out.
It's okay, Kate. I think we understand. But maybe we'll put that on the list for our next Crack That
Definitely.
Pack. All right, that is TOFOP for this week. Will, you're going on tour with Adam Spencer. That's
I am,
exciting.
yeah. So comedy.com.au if you just want to find all the details. Melbourne, Sydney, Adelaide, Wollongong and Newcastle.
And TOFOP Live is coming back to the Basement Comedy Club for the months of October, November and December. Details on our website or just click the link. Just click the link.
The link.
Click the link in the episode description. Okay, that is TOFOP for this week. I'm Charlie Clausen.
Well, Anderson.